Hi everyone, my name is Summer Hood and this is my in-service presentation. Today we will be talking about cultivating the strengths of an introvert. So I chose this topic because I'm an introvert myself and I have felt like in the past that this is something that has hindered me in certain areas like socializing, networking, school, the workplace. So this was a subject that I wanted to dive into to cultivate strengths for myself as an introvert. So before we begin, I would like you guys to take this personality quiz to find out whether or not if you are an introvert, an extrovert, or an ambivert. And so I provided the link. It's on TED.com. So you can just pause this video and come back when you're finished. All right, so what is an introvert? An introvert is someone who prefers a calm and minimally stimulating environment. Introverts tend to feel drained after socializing, and they regain their energy by spending time alone. This is largely because introverts' brains respond to dopamine differently than extroverts' brains. In other words, if you're an introvert, you were likely born that way. Introverts are more sensitive to dopamine and can become overstimulated easily. They prefer the slow feeling they get when their brains release acetylcholine. This happens more so when they concentrate, read, or focus their minds. This makes introverts feel more content. Introverts tend to listen patiently and they love to spend time alone and reflect. It's a good way to reconnect with themselves. They often learn strategies to find comfort in a very noisy world. Many times you hear about the battery analogy with this. Introverts have a people battery. The more people and interaction, the more their battery charge decreases. This is the opposite for extroverts. Extroverts charge their batteries with socializing and being around more people. Extroverts have more of an active dopamine system. If you're an ambivert, then you're in luck. You fall in the middle of the spectrum. They usually equally are comfortable in leadership roles and supporting roles, and they tend to fill the voids in their teams. Ambiverts tend to be a nice balance of the two. So there are quite a bit of misconceptions of an introvert. One would be introverts can't be leaders or they are always followers, and that is not true. Introverts are always shy. While shyness and introversion often overlap, introversion is more so how you are wired in your brain. It is not a problem to overcome introversion. It is something that can be used as an advantage. Another misconception is that they are not good public speakers. Some famous people that you guys may know that identify with being introverted would include Martin Luther King, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg. All right, so I have some statistics. 96% of leadership positions are filled with extroverted individuals, but 40 to 60% of the population identifies with being an introvert. A survey conducted by USA Today in 2006 said that 65% of senior corporate executives saw that introversion was a barrier to leadership. So right now, I want you all to think of some strengths or benefits that you think come along with being an introvert. All right, so let's talk about the benefits of an introvert. They can be good listeners. We know in OT school, we hear the word active listening a lot. And so good listeners are usually active listeners, and it helps us use our therapeutic use of self. They are often observant. They also usually have a more focused attention or focused conversations, which help with thoughtful networking skills to build strong, lasting relationships. So, when you see an introvert out at a social event, usually they're not going to be talking to a whole lot of people in the room. Usually, they may spend more time with less people, but having more thought out conversations because their people meter is much lower than an extrovert. Another one would be their willingness to hear difference of opinions. It's important when working with people of different backgrounds and cultures to sit still and be quiet and listen when interacting with others. All right, so introverts in leadership. Because of introverts' needs for listening to others, this can mean that they hear more ideas and leave their colleagues feeling more valued. This helps promote an environment of inclusivity. They can be compassionate leaders. Introverts make the best leaders when they channel their natural strengths. For starters, they don't feel the need to step in the spotlight often and take credit for group successes. Rather, they are likely to highlight the strengths of their team. So there was an article that I read. It was a study done in 2011 called Reversing the Extroverted Leadership Advantage, the Role of Employer Proactivity. This study was to see whether less extroverted leaders or introverted leaders have more of a leadership advantage in the workplace or when working with groups. They did this study with college students and they had them folding t-shirts, one with an extroverted leader and one with an introverted leader. It showed that there were no differences in productivity of t-shirt folding in either the extroverted or the introverted leader. They were about the same. So this shows that extroverted leadership is not always better than introverted leadership, and that it is not always a requirement for group and organizational effectiveness. They also did a post survey which showed that people were more inclined to come up with new ways or proactive ways to complete the work task of folding the shirts with more of the introverted leader. They felt more receptive to express their ideas to the introverted leader. Next would be the steps to cultivating these strengths. So, find ways to eliminate anxiety in your environment. This may be that you have to go to a quiet place during lunch to recharge your battery. You can try team building activities in the workplace. This is a good way to connect introverts and extroverts and ambiverts. Try to take risks and leave your comfort zone. This may require being more assertive, but even though it's uncomfortable, it can help you in the long run. Find ways to express your enthusiasm. I know as an introvert myself, I have been told sometimes that I have a flat affect and that I should watch out for my facial expressions, but this is very important because this is how people perceive you and perceive your mood. It's also good to express your needs and goals and make sure you take care of yourself with self-care. Make sure you do go home and that you do recharge. Find out what recharges your battery. It could be reading, it could be doing yoga, it could just be sitting in a quiet place for 30 minutes by yourself. All right, so I read a bit of this book called Introverted Leader by Jennifer Conwheeler. And this introduces the 4 P's of process that I thought was very interesting. And the 4 P's of process helps to address the challenges of introverts and how to turn them into opportunities. It's basically like a roadmap to improve your performance as an introvert. And if you're an extrovert, you can use it as a tool if you are a leader or a manager. You can also use these 4 P's. The first P would be prepare. If you ever heard the saying, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail, this is basically what that is talking about. It's just that extra security to make you feel more comfortable. It will give you more confidence to handle spontaneous situations. It can help with reducing stress. And ways that you can do this is, for instance, you could prepare questions that may be addressed in a meeting, or for us, prepare questions for a future field work. You can do role playing with a friend. You can review information beforehand by doing some reading or some research. You can prepare extensive notes and even have specific phrases to use. You can also observe others who have good interpersonal skills and apply that to yourself. This is basically your game plan for your social interactions. Your next P would be presence. If you are prepared, you can relax and be in the present more. There's this term called the perception gap, and this is the gap between your intended image and your perceived image. Sometimes introverts seem disconnected. I know I have been told that in the past. This refers to being present in a way that allows you to be with people. You are not thinking of what you could have done differently or worrying about future outcomes. This shows that you are engaged by showing sincerity in conversations. You may have to think of backup topics when the conversation dies down, for instance. The next C would be push. And this is pretty simply put. Put yourself out of your comfort zone and push through your fears. And the next P would be practice. So this is just taking advantage of every opportunity to practice these new behaviors of preparing, being in the present, and pushing yourself. Practice skills that push you and amplify your natural talents. All right, so for my final thoughts, introverts, ambiverts, and extroverts all have their advantages, and there are ways that you can cultivate your strengths in each category. I hope if you're an introvert that this helped you in some way. And if you're not, maybe you could incorporate these strategies to aid in strengthening an introvert to reveal their best selves. I have a knowledge check for you guys after this, and thank you for watching my presentation. Bye.